Thank you. Give yourself a big round of applause. We are being broadcast live on the internet, on the web, across the world, and across the minds who are interested in the truth, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of tragedy. And this segment of the show is where we talk about stories. Stories that I hate, stories that I love, stories that you hate and that you love. Remember to make a lot of noise. We're being filmed tonight again. This is our floor mic. This is our centerpiece. This show is about you. It's not about us. Come up and tell us what you think about what's going on in the world. The mic is here. Use it. This is our weapon of choice. This is our voice. Now, of course, during the last week, there are a few stories that sort of caught my mind. I've been busy like everybody else. And I hear that Art Bell officially anointed global warming as a reality, for those of you who listen to such things. And I heard a story that kind of struck my funny bone, and I'm sure you're going to be hearing it more and more and more as time goes on. It's something that Clyde brought up some weeks ago, and it has to do with putting the blame. It's kind of the blame game. And there's a kind of a rock song that goes back in my mind about that. But in any case, who's to blame for global warming, right? We all know that it's the corporations, right? We all know that. We all know that's why we won't be eating fish, in a few years. The Pope, etc., etc., etc. We all know that. But guess what? They have the money to twist it and twist it. And one of the ways in which the apparatus twists the news is by going through the scientific communities, right? In other words, they fund projects that come out with reports that tell you things that you already know. But they play billions of, okay. But you may not know this. You may not know this. In fact, you may be terribly shocked by this. But the real culprit behind global warming, first of all, is not carbon dioxide. No, that's just a straw man, a paper tiger. It's not carbon dioxide at all. And it's not all of our emissions from the cars or the factories or even the office buildings. Office buildings produce a lot more carbon dioxide than the cars do, for those who dig into it. No. It's a whole different culprit altogether. It's a different gas. Anybody know? Methane. Thank you. We have an attentive crowd tonight.
Stop farting.
Yeah. It is methane. And guess what the greatest producer of methane in the world is? Cows, you got it. So the ground zero people are hip to the news. They caught the story and they found the source. We now have a new culprit. We have a new cause of global warming. It is the common ordinary cow. It's not, yeah.
The milk drinkers!
And the milk drinkers, and look at all of this. But where does the methane come from? Believe me, it's a conspiracy. First, they belch a lot. All the billions of cows belch all of this methane gas. Of course, they fart a lot. So it's the belching, it's the farting. It's also all the cow shit that's left around that gets washed off, all the pesticides that are used, all the water that's found. Folks, the cow is the problem. So, it's not carbon dioxide. Sometimes you think that there's a little echo of that famous vegan Adolf Hitler who says that all we have to do to solve the problem is get rid of the cows. Get rid of them all. And we'll be safe. We'll be safe from mad cow disease as well, but that kind of comes and goes. Now, I have to say that I had a fantastic burger the other day after this news. It's in a little place in Beaverton near where I work. It's called Dessert Noir. I highly recommend it to anybody who knows about it. The burger is fantastic. But at the same time, I was thinking, my God, am I complicit with global warming by eating this burger? I don't know. It's up for you to decide. We anticipate throughout the rest of this evening more exciting stories, better stories that you love and hate. There's some evil things afoot. There's a kind of looking for culprits. You see, for those of you who come to the lounge, you understand that we describe the matrix, we describe the patterns. Finding a scapegoat for global warming in Bessie is just part of a larger picture of finding scapegoats for other plans. Remember the witch hunts from the Middle Ages. The witch hunts are still with us. And to elucidate some of this maleficent action, I would like to present Clyde Lewis. Clyde.
I find it interesting that Larry brings up cows and farting and cow farts. I mean, first it was ducks, now it's cows. I mean, you get some barnyard fetish going on. But how many people have been reading the news about this two-nosed cow? Anybody hear about this? No?
No?
A few people have. I hear a few people. Yeah, two-nosed cow. Somebody asked me, well, how does a two-nosed cow smell? I go, pretty fucking terrible. He's farting like Larry's talking about. But, no, boy, this mic's a little high. Oh, it's tight, too. Anyway,
Tight my mic.
I'm just going to take it out of the holder, because I said that I play with the mic stand. People say, you play with the mic stand too much. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. The whole thing that Larry was talking about witch hunts and craziness and all of that, the reason why Larry is bringing this up is because I'm sensing that this is about to take place. I'm sensing that we are about to see more than just seeing people like Don Imus getting brought down because of things he says. I think we're going to start seeing more people getting blamed. I mean, you heard what Al Sharpton said about Mitt Romney. You heard what you didn't hear about what he said. He was saying something about how he believes that Mitt Romney's candidacy is not going to mean anything because all people who believe in God are going to want to vote him out because his God is not the God that we believe in.
His God is Satan.
Well, yeah, his God is Satan because, of course, Mormons believe in Satan and they worship Satan, and that's why they're rich. That's why the Marriott hotels are so popular, because the guy Marriott, who owns the hotels, he prays to the Dark Lord every day and hopes that the Dark Lord will provide for him whatever he wants. And but see, that's bullshit. I mean, people are trying to creatively say, well, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not this, and this. And see, when you start poking at people, poking at their beliefs, and you start examining their beliefs, and you start saying, well, I don't like what he says, so I'm going to say something bad about him in hopes that he'll cop to it and say, oh, I'm sorry, I was bad. And they do this all the time, and they use, like, how many people here believe that 9/11 was an inside job by applause? Now, I don't know about you, and I don't know if any of you have heard, but a lot of people are comparing you 9/11 freaks. They're comparing you to Holocaust deniers. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah.
They're saying that those who believe that 9/11 was an inside job is akin to saying that no one died at Auschwitz. Saying that the Jews were not gassed at Auschwitz. They are using that to get people to pay attention to their bullshit. And this is a tactic that they do all the time. They will throw something that they know will make you go, oh, why? I don't know. They'll throw the anti-Semitic rant at you. They'll throw whatever they can at you, anti-gay, anti-whatever. They'll throw it at you because they want to bring you down. And I know people have had experiences before where they have said something or they have done something where it's been misconstrued, it's been misunderstood, and you try your best to apologize for it, and it doesn't matter how much you apologize, they still think that you are bad. And they won't change their opinion. Why? Because it's fortified. That opinion is fortified. I remember when Rosie O'Donnell said, when she said on The View, immediately Tom DeLay was saying, well, we got rid of Imus, now let's get rid of Rosie. Well, Rosie's leaving The View, and I know you guys don't care about that, but it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder why, after DeLay made the statement, she's leaving. Okay? We need to think about all those things. We need to think about cause and effect here. We need to think about, if we decide that we want to speak out against something and step aside, and I'm talking about everything, okay? I'm not talking about what we all can agree is bad, what we all can agree is good. I'm talking about a number of things. I'm talking about global warming, too. Is there any way we can fix that?
I just did.
Thank you, sir. I just got sterile, so now I don't have babies anymore. I'm just kidding.
I did you a favor.
Thank you. Line up after the show. Anyway, what I'm getting at is there was a science at one time. There was a science that, well, we can go all the way back to the witch hunts of the 1700s. And we can talk about Malleus Maleficarum, we can talk about all that, where people were accused of being a witch, and you had to prove that you weren't a witch. Otherwise, they would kill you. They would stone you, they would put you in the ducking stool, they'd do whatever. And you know what? If the church said you were a witch, if the court said you were a witch, then you were a witch. And it didn't matter that you were a good person. If you did something that they thought was weird, out of the ordinary, or not doctrinal, or what have you, they'd go after you. Most of these people they'd go after were women. They'd go after the women, they'd kill them. There was also a time where there was some science. There was politicized, a theory that was politicized by, there was a scientific theory that politics got behind in history. Politics got behind this theory, and that is that it was a science that was new, and it was important for the survival of the people. And there were many people that backed up this science. People like Teddy Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, people like Winston Churchill, for example. They were all behind this science. They were saying this science is real. It's real, and we need to pay attention to it because it can destroy our lives. The Supreme Court of the United States was behind it. The Carnegie Corporation was behind it. They were all behind this new scientific theory. This new scientific theory had everybody frightened because they were afraid that, yes, this would cause some problems for our lives. I'm not talking about global warming here. What I'm talking about is the mentally retarded, gay people, stupid people, people that shouldn't breed according to eugenics theories. There was a time where our politics got behind the idea that anyone who was not fit to be here needed to be taken out because their contributions to the gene pool were ruining the gene pool. And that we needed to weed out those people. That was the science back then. And people in high places, even our government, wanted to see these people be weeded out. Eugenics. It was the United States of America that had the best eugenics program. And it was Adolf Hitler who decided to get behind it. And he was the one that kept it going. And through this science that was politicized and backed by people in high places, it was through this science that millions of people died. So whenever a politician or politics or a political body gets behind some sort of science, or pseudoscience. We need to take a look back in history and realize that when that happens, witch hunts occur. And that witch hunts that occur, that people who are, they're well-known people, for example, who spoke out against global warming, and they said, well, global warming isn't exact science, isn't really exact science, it's just something that has now been taken over by the political people. These people in these positions, these older scientists that say, hey, wait a minute, we need to take a look at everything here. They have no grants or federal funding they have to look for to keep their ideas and their curriculum alive. It's the younger ones, the ones that have a lot to lose if they say that this is something that needs to be examined a little bit more. I've been talking about the idea that the reason why we're seeing weather changes is because of laser tests. I have demonstrated with visuals here that laser tests, firing hot lasers into the sky and changing the atmosphere with these hot and heat sensitive areas, moving the atmosphere into certain areas that it shouldn't be in, or moving the jet stream in areas it shouldn't wind up, is the reason why we're seeing all of these horrible things take place, all these weird weather patterns. It's funny how the weird weather patterns started beginning about 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, and all these people started saying, well, now we got to believe it's global warming. When we were testing weapons of mass destruction from outer space, and we were using those weapons, as I demonstrated here on this stage, we used those weapons on the people of Afghanistan and the people of Iraq. And the dandelion, the nuclear dandelion that exists when we use those depleted uranium tips on those weapons, is now generating the cancerous effect here in this country as well in other countries of Europe. People are dying of cancer at young ages now. And they're not talking about that. They're not talking about the mental illness and the other illnesses that are being brought home from the soldiers in Afghanistan and the soldiers in Iraq. We have 4,000 troops now looking for 3 soldiers in Iraq right now. We had a tornado rip through Kansas. And once again, trucks and needed men to help those people in that Kansas town were not available because they're all over there fighting a war that was based on a lie. George W. Bush had an approval rating last week of 28%. That is not an approval rating.
That's a disapproval rating.
That is a disapproval rating. Why don't they report what's going on? 72% hate that son of a bitch. 70, yeah, go ahead and clap if you think. 72%. Why don't we report it like it is? It's 72%. But no, it's a 28% approval rating. That's a positive light on this. I don't know how more positive we can get. 72%, people. That should say something to you, right?
Lower than Nixon.
Lower than Nixon. Yes, exactly. Bill Clinton had a higher rating even after he got his blowjob. Maybe he needs to get a blowjob. At least we'll impeach him and have a better approval rating, right? Probably.
Here's an
Go ahead, Doug.
analogy with sports, because George Bush was owner of the Texas Rangers baseball club. But 28% in any sport is failure. If you're a good team, you win a high percentage of games. There is not a franchise that was 28% as successful. So if this was a game, which it isn't, he'd be a complete total failure as president.
So in the witch hunt that we talk about, that would mean that if the failure of George W. Bush happens, the 28% failure rate, that means all Republicans are suspect, right? No. That's stupidity. Please. You trying to tell me that one stupid moron upsets the entire apple cart? No. You get rid of the bad apple, and you try to find other good apples within that group, and you do the same thing with all the bad apples in that fucking Democrat group too. We need to be objective and we need to be fair. Otherwise, we're going to do the same thing we did the last time. You can't be a part of a witch hunt. We can't sit there and say that just because George W. Bush does this, that there aren't anybody out there on that side of the fence that are going to do a good job. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want Hillary Clinton to be my president of the United States. I don't want John Kerry to be my president of the United States. Now I hear a lot of people saying that Ron Paul will be a great guy. I'm hearing about John Edwards being a great guy. You know what? None of them at the moment really make me feel good about being an American and voting. But yet we still are going to take sides. Why? Because they speak our tune, right? No, you can't be fooled, because you know what? They know how to take you and make you think that you're winning, when in reality you're losing. How many people have been to Las Vegas by applause? How many people remember the talk I gave up here about hyper-reality? Well, you know what? Yes, you're in the middle of hyper-reality right now. Hyper-reality, which means that the reality you're seeing is not the real thing. It's all a dog and pony show. A big dog and pony show that's there for you to fall for. And yeah, we can say that one side was responsible for all the hell and problems in this country, right back to that whole thing that no one died when Clinton lied. That's bullshit. People died in Bosnia. People died when he was getting his blowjobs. They did. We can't forget that. There were 8 terrorist attacks, attempted terrorist attacks in the United States. One succeeded with Clinton in office. That was the Oklahoma City attack. We can't forget that. That was on his watch. That was, Oklahoma City was on his watch. And I hear somebody say, that's not the kind of terror we're talking about. It certainly is the kind of terror we're talking about. Waco was on his watch. Ruby Ridge was on his watch. And so these idiots get into office, into power, the Bush regime, and what happens? We have the big one go up and it explodes, and we're all changing our minds about how this country should act. Bullshit. We have been under the gun of terrorism long before George Bush came into power. So why has our attitude changed? I'll tell you why it's changed. Because of the trigger phrases and all the other things they use to manipulate you, and all the scapegoats and witch hunts that they went after, and still they haven't been able to produce a witch. And they've hung one of them allegedly, but yet a lot of people don't believe he's dead either. Our purpose was to go in and take out the dictator, yet we're still there. Why? Because it's all a big lie. It's an Orwellian front. Always we're at war with East Asia. Always. Your culture is no longer the American culture. It's the military-industrial complex that gives you your culture. The police state gives you your culture. Turn on your television and tell me that the TV shows that you're not seeing are all about dying in hospitals, going after the criminals, pounding on the doors, and reality TV where everybody's fighting for the resource, everybody's fighting for the cheese. They're all rats in a maze trying to make enough money so that they can not get the "you're fired" from Donald Trump. What a bunch of shit that is. American Idol, getting up there and singing, and we're doing it until we make money. This is exactly what they did in Buenos Aires when I was there, where the terrorism was running rampant through there. It was all one big show. They had a show called Toco y Canto. They had everybody buy books and you could play the guitar. Then you go on some TV show, they would vote you off or vote you on. It was this kind of amateur hour bullshit that they put on television in between the police state shows. Military-industrial complex, everywhere you look. How many commercials do you see on TV about an army of one? An army of one. Join the Army, join the Navy, join the Marines. It's okay to do that. How many times do we have to stop the news when we hear about some soldier that was killed in Iraq? How many times do we still have to hear about Pat Tillman? How many times do we still have to hear about all these other things that are going on over there? And we're sick of it. When was the last time we saw a TV show that dealt with something that was fantasy? How many science fiction TV shows are there on right now that people can name off the top of their head? There's no more Star Trek. There's no more Star Wars. There's no more fantasy about our futures. Why? Because they bent us over and they fucked us for our future and they took it away from us overnight. They took it from you. And the TV propaganda you get every night is all about the big, fat, fucking police state. That fat monkey that's sitting on your back constantly telling you to look over your shoulder because some bastard's gonna blow you up. I saw a preview to, a show that was on TV called Heroes. Anybody familiar with that show? One of the things, obviously, that the end plot or whatever, somebody has a bomb because the end phrase I heard this guy say was boom, boom. Yeah, they are getting you ready. They're getting you ready for the whole bomb thing. That's the next step. The bomb thing. I told you about the Mad Bishop bomber. I said the next step will be bomb scares. We had bomb scares even during the whole thing with Virginia Tech. The bomb scares. And now it's becoming a part of your television shows. And we showed here on this stage too that there were television shows and there were movies that dealt with the destruction of the World Trade Center. And no one knew to look at those patterns. But then when it happened, people thought they were watching a TV show. And it's happening now. They're getting you conditioned to find that witch, to find that scapegoat. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you said next step. Why don't you tell them about the movie we saw yesterday?
How many people have seen the movie Next with Nicolas Cage? No one. That movie is amazing because that movie talks about the idea of being aware of what's going to happen ahead of time. And the whole time, the movie deals with this guy that can see the future 2 minutes into the future. He can basically predict when bad things are about to happen. But one thing they want him to predict that he refuses to predict is the idea that a bomb is going to be set off in Los Angeles. A nuclear warhead, a dirty bomb. And at the end, he says he made a mistake. He's moving forward. He's trying to make things work. He refuses. He refuses to tell the world about it because he doesn't want to be a part of it. But yet, they're conditioning you to remember the future and to condition you for that possibility. These things are here to condition you, to get you prepared, to get you in that mindset. And what will happen is that once you get into that mindset, it's easy for that political arm to come in and tell you, we have the solution. We have the crisis averted because we're the ones that know you don't know. And they're the ones that created the crisis in the first place. They create the crisis. They then see if you understand that there is a crisis, and then they have the antidote for that crisis. All these gas prices that are going up, they're controlling that. They control that. And they have the solution, but they won't give it to us. Why? Because they want to see us beat the shit out of each other first. Because you know what they value more? They value gasoline, they value life and sanctity. They value that police state culture that they want to ingrain in each and every one of you. That police state culture is being bred every day, and we unknowingly have to participate in it. Some of us say no, we don't want to. But many of us have to do it because we're afraid that if we don't, if we step out of line, we'll be taken out. Go ahead.
Has anyone seen that show Jericho?
Yeah, I see that.
It's another clear example of whatever implicit aspects of the U.S. government trying to take over the United States through implanting strategic nuclear weapons throughout the United States and exploding bombs, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, it's like same.
Remember the thing with the War of the Worlds?
Yeah, exactly.
They've been underneath us all along.
Yeah, exactly.
The weapons of mass destruction have been under our noses the whole time. They just knew how to bring them up out of the ground and use them against us.
So yeah, that's what's interesting about the Jericho thing, is they're just exploding all these, weapons everywhere strategically. Not enough to actually destroy the United States, but enough to throw it into chaos while subversive aspect of our government comes and takes over.
That's exactly right. I was doing some research. Very good, give me a hand. Very good. I was doing some research on this Virginia Tech case, and apparently the situation is even deeper than we realized. Remember I was talking about how the sister of Cho works for the State Department, actually works for, not the State Department, but works for the Iraq Reconstruction Project. Some of the people that are behind that are like the McNeil Organization. The McNeil Organization, of course, is funded by Veritas. The McNeil Organization deals a lot in security, mainly security, arms control, and things of that nature. And Veritas, of course, two of the members of Veritas, people who fund these groups, are with the Council on Foreign Relations, the very group of people that George W. Bush said were the shadow government. Remember after 9/11, he said there was a shadow government in power during the time of 9/11? That shadow government was the Council on Foreign Relations. They're the ones that help have the transition of power in Washington if some disaster takes place. You don't know about the Council on Foreign Relations, but the Council on Foreign Relations are that group. Ronald Reagan once said that he would never have anybody on his staff who was a member of CFR. He took that back when George H.W. Bush became Vice President of the United States. And once he got in there, a lot of funny, strange things happened, huh? There's an assassination attempt on him, right?
More than one.
Yeah. And it just seems to me, it's kind of fishy that this all takes place because somebody wants a little bit of a power grab. And they've always wanted a power grab from the very beginning, the Bush-Clinton-Bush dynasty. If we have a Clinton in the White House again, it's going to be that way. And if no one smells a fish or a fishy or a stinky fish in this, I don't know what to tell you. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy nutcase that can tell you that we cannot allow this to happen. Because if we do, then we're stupid and we get whatever comes to us. We need to stand up and say, no, and you know what's really hilarious about that? Is that if the Clinton thing happens, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be fighting right next to the very people they hate, the conservatives. Why? Because immediately we're going to see what it really is, and that is a farce. We're going to see that it's idiocy at its best, and we're going to see the truth. Now, I don't know what it's going to take to tell you all that taking sides in this is not going to be the answer. That saying that I'm on the side of this people, I'm on the side of that people, I'm going to vote so-and-so in, I'm going to vote. No. 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 Please. These people do not have the morals that you have. They never will, and they never have. These are the same people that dance in front of an owl in June in Northern California with a little effigy burning at the feet of an owl. These are the guys that roam around naked. These are the ones that are responsible for all the sexual escapades in the White House. These are the people that go off to Thailand and fuck little boys. These are the people that you vote for. Have a fucking conscience and don't take sides. Use your head and realize that we need reform and we need it now. It's hard to be different, isn't it? It's hard to swim against the current. It's hard to say, hey, I don't believe in Hillary Clinton. I don't believe in anybody. I don't believe in anybody. Not yet. Unless they're telling me that the war is going to end, that I'm going to have fresh water, and I'm going to have fresh food, that I'm not going to have to worry about whether or not I'm able to put gas in my tank. Maybe they'll give me a way that I don't have to always ask for gas. Perhaps alternative fuel. Ways that I can conserve energy. Things that will be implemented to help me so that I can be a better American, a better citizen of the world, where I understand and care about everybody, even though I don't see them, and actually put it into action without saying it with words. And it doesn't take some Irish rock band and some other guy to do some African relief fund to get you to start caring about that shit. You should do it anyway. You should do it anyway, because this is what we need to do. And we need to look at it practically. I know it's cool to get behind a cause because someone with power told you to get behind it, but you know what? They have a reason for getting you to go behind it. There's always some sort of a money situation going on. Everybody isn't pure of heart. Everybody doesn't have that pure of heart thing going on. I'm tired of being so cynical, but I have to be, because you know what? Cynicism is realism. They'll tell you that this is the way it is, and immediately they'll tell you the next day it's something totally different. They have the power to do that. Stand up, sit down, do whatever you need to do, play your Xbox, whatever. They want you to do this. They want you to think that the saviors of the next election will be your Democrats because the Republican that's in there right now is a total douchebag. Well, you know what? There was a time, some of you, I'm not going to point you out, but some of you voted for Ronald Reagan. Some of you voted for Richard Nixon. Everybody changes their beliefs just like they change their underwear. And to think that any type of person is going to save us because of a certain party they belong to is stupidity. It's like Einstein says, if you do the same thing over and over again expecting a different result, you're insane.
Hey, Clyde, just to give you a chance to catch your breath a second, wanted to also add the French philosopher Baudrillard, who we have quoted here many times, has said that when history repeats itself, it's a farce. I think we're feeling that with the industrial complex. But also, when a farce repeats itself, it's history. And that probably is what we're seeing when we're talking about elections. The farce, because the farce in a fascist state of free elections becomes history. It's the strangest thing. A bunch of clowns spending billions of dollars of the taxpayers' money, of campaign contributions, to just juggle the faces and juggle the masks and sit in the same seats again, and then everybody's watching as if it's an important thing. And I think that's what you're trying to say.
Well, yeah, we've let them get away with so much for so long. No one has gotten up and said anything. And if you do say something, you're afraid of reprisal. You're afraid of getting told that you're wrong, or you're afraid of getting told that they're going to come after you. They're afraid of what, I'll tell you what. I can't believe people are still paying $4.35 a gallon for gasoline. In New York, they had that on the news, East Coast, $4.35 a gallon. In some areas it's $4.35 a gallon at Shell stations now. It's $3 here, $3.50, but it's $4.35, $4.40 elsewhere. It's going to be up higher and higher and higher. I told you August, right? My father called me on the phone on Mother's Day. He told me that the trucks in Utah, that they're already talking about walking off their semis because they can't afford to put gas in their vehicles. A lot of companies have not allocated budgets for this high of a gas increase. So if there are rumors going around that trucks aren't going to run, guess what happens when trucks don't run, people? You don't eat. Food riots, gas riots. We were just talking earlier. When there's no food, you end up getting sick. When there's nothing to feed that sickness, you start getting a little nuts. Then who's breaking the law and who's the criminal? The person who wants to survive, self-preservation? Or the person that just kindly sits back? I mean, when will you think about the possibility that you're going to have to rip off gasoline, rip off food, or even kill for it? I know none of you would do that, hopefully. But there are a lot of people out there that don't give a damn about that. Evidence, people who shoot up schools, people who shoot up NASA, people who shoot malls, people who basically lose everything and feel they have nothing more to lose, so they're going to go for the gusto. Then we're going to blame society on these people that decide to shoot. We need to start making decisions and prepare for the resource depletion management I've been talking about here on the stage. Go ahead.
I was thinking about yesterday at the grocery store, the citrus crop, a bag of tangerines, $6.99 for a bag of tangerines. That was, I guess you have global warming and the winter freeze that affected the California citrus crop, mixed in with the trucks paying more for gas to bring the food in the trucks to the supermarkets.
And the bees not pollinating anything? It's all a circle, right? The bees aren't pollinating, the weather's terrible, the gas is high. I think you can tell what's going to happen in the next 6 months, don't you? doesn't take a prophet to figure that one out. It doesn't take a psychic to figure that one out, right? I hope I'm making you think here, right? I mean, you're all pretty comfortable now and you think the money's going to buy you everything. Well, sometimes if money is given for stuff that doesn't exist, your money ain't worth shit. And inflation and everything else is going to come with that. Don't think for 1 minute that we're not going to suffer any repercussions from filling up that fucking aircraft carrier just so we can take out another group of suspicious brown people over there in Iraq. Aircraft carriers take gas. Our military-industrial complex culture takes that much gasoline to make it work. And don't let them blame you for that. Global warming is bullshit. Sure, the weather's changing, but they're responsible for it. They've been responsible the whole time. They're the ones that created the dragon. Now they're blaming us for unleashing it. It's bullshit. Please understand that it's crap. And I'm not going to fall for it. They started this, not us. They gave us those things to do. Now they're telling us that it's our problem. It was their problem. Jimmy Carter 30 years ago said that this was going to happen. It's happening now. Where's Jimmy Carter? They're laughing at them now. They're laughing at him. Why? Because he wrote a book about Jews. Oh, let's call a scapegoat a scapegoat. Let's point him out as a witch. Let's hang the son of a bitch. That way he doesn't sit and talk about how he was right about solar panels and everything else now. Yeah, they fucked up, we fucked up, we all fucked up. Why? Because they kept telling us to do it. They encouraged us to keep it going. Remember, it's not red state, it's not blue state, it's a state against you. And it's always been that way. They encourage you to do so many things just so that they can benefit. And the violence that happens afterward helps them as well to enforce that police state culture. That culture that we're living by now. Go ahead.
Wow, I don't know how I can follow that. Anyway, I wanted to bring up the situation in Pakistan. I don't know if you folks have been hearing about what's going on there. The Musharraf government is under huge being assailed because the Taliban backed groups, and there's riots in the streets and so on. So if we're worried about nuclear proliferation, here's we're worried about what's going on in Iraq, but here's a group that's going to be controlled by the Taliban that has nuclear weapons.
Well, they just announced that Iran is now fortifying their enriched uranium program threefold. It's almost like, okay, cue the Iranians and let's let Pakistan go crazy. And, we all, how do we know all this? How do we know that this is really going on? They tell us that it's going on, but how do we know it's really going on? We could drop bombs tomorrow on New Jersey, and they wouldn't know why we dropped them, and then after they're all dead, we can say, well, they were plotting against us, and they wanted to destroy the country. And every fucking moron that believes CNN, Fox, CBS, NBC, ABC is going to say, yeah, those sons of bitches in New Jersey. Who never thought? They stink, they talk funny, and they're stupid. You ever been to Newark?
And if I can say, I'm sorry, one other thing, the number 2 guy at the Justice Department resigned today, too.
Really? Say it. Who was it?
I don't remember his
Do you know his name?
Number
Do you know his name? Number 2?
I don't, but I can see that the heads will start to roll.
He said he was going to spend more time with his family.
That seems to be the way it's going, right? Didn't Blair say that when he stepped down? I don't know. Tony Blair? Yeah, he stepped down when the Queen came here, right?
Well,
Anybody find it interesting that the Queen showed up at Beltane, and then after the Beltane happened, the fires started up in the country? Anybody know what Beltane is? It's a celebration of fire. Go figure, right? Kind of a coincidence, huh? Don't know if it's that much of a coincidence, but still. Beltane, Queen comes back, comes to a place. You hear George Bush say that the Queen was like 200 years old? What if he was telling the truth? David Icke. David Icke says that she's a lizard, she's over 400 years old. Maybe Bush was right and he just slipped. That's why he winked at the Queen. The Queen gave me this look like, you son of a bitch, you almost gave it away. And, go ahead, Bob.
No, Clyde, if I hear you correctly, I think you're basically saying that at some point in time, all of us have to say no to the monster. The monster being the military-industrial fascist state.
Right.
Or we become part of the monster.
Sure.
At a certain point, we have to draw a line in the sand and say, we won't follow you there anymore. We're done.
No matter how bad it gets.
Exactly. Don't get very bad on it. Very
And
tough on
people
us.
will criticize us, say, don't you support our troops? I fought in WW2, the big one. You know what I'd say to them if they said that to me? I'd say, you know what, you fought a war for a country that doesn't exist now. It's not the same country anymore. 9/11 changed everything because we believed the hype. We had that little thing going over our heads again, that loop that continues to come back. And every time they want to make a point, he even said this. I think it was Giuliani that said this. He said, if you put a Democrat in office, there'll be another 9/11 attack. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, how many Democrats were in office when the first one hit? Yes, exactly. Terrorism happens no matter who's president. Terrorism happens no matter who the leader is. Terrorism has been around since the time of Og the caveman, fighting over whether or not he'd get this cow or that cow. Terrorism has always existed. You cannot declare war on a noun. That's stupid. We declare a war on poverty, and we declare a war on illiteracy, and we declare a war on terrorism. And you know what? People are poverty-stricken now. They can't read. And terrorism, well, hey. Every time you turn on the TV, you see it, whether it be fake terrorism or the real thing. It's not happening here, no, not here, because they're protecting us. No, they're setting the stage for the big one. They're preparing us for an even bigger one. They'll make 9/11 look like a picnic. First there was Oklahoma City, a bomb went off there, a lot of people died, then 3,000 died. How many more people have to die to get you to the point to say, oh, be scared, they're going to protect you? This goes to show you they can't protect you no matter how many guns they have, no matter how many nuclear weapons are pointed at them, they can still get on our shores and wreak havoc. That is, of course, if it is them for real. And not people within the barriers and borders of this country doing it. Like your congressmen who fund it, who look the other way when wars are fought over lies. Where laws are broken every day, and yet we have little conferences and little things to distract us from the criminal element that's going on in this country right now. It continues, it continues, it continues, and you know what? We were so lulled to sleep over the idea that we had manifest destiny that we forget that the devil can get in while you're not looking. That there are things that can really look evil, that can get in there and smile at you and tell you that it's okay, when in reality, it's not. And it gets even uglier and uglier. And people who have their eyes wide open can see it. And those who want to ignore it and want to live in ignorance, they don't.
I remember the Nazis who were brought over after World War II, and also remember all the terrorism we talk about, Oklahoma City, blah, virtually all of it is state-sponsored false flag terrorism, meant to manipulate us.
That's right. That's right.
It is not little people going, oh, I'm going to be a terrorist. It is deliberately done in order to scare us and move us toward this fascist state. And I want to say just one last thing. I couldn't help but think I was having a Howard Beale network moment watching you earlier.
Really?
Have you been?
I haven't passed out yet.
Not yet.
I will. I'll do it for effect.
Good.
Thank you, Bob. Give him a hand for that.
I want to just interject, you know, we've been doing Ground Zero Lounge for, 3-4 years, I forget. And it just gets a groundswell of consciousness. I don't know how to say it. It's not numbers per se. It's just a raising of the consciousness of people can say, it's not just I won't gonna take it anymore, but I see it better. I won't be overcome by all the smoke and nonsense. We have an atmosphere of courage in this place, and I'm happy to be here every week.
I hope so. Thank you, Larry. Thank you for that. I was doing some studying during the week, and I didn't know how to present this, but I'm going to throw this at you because I want you to think about 3 things. I want you to think about something called three woes. And I'm talking about W-O-E-S, woes. The Bible talks about three woes. The Old Testament talks about three woes. Even in the Quran, they talk about three woes. And in the Kabbalah, they talk about three woes. They talk about the whirlwind, they talk about the fires, and they talk about the bottomless pit of despair. And those are the three woes. The whirlwind, we've talked about that many times here on the stage. The whirlwind is an archetype or an example of the beginning of something. The beginning of something that will bring about an end. An end that will cause a stir and an excitement amongst the group of people. The whirlwind will either destroy or enlighten, depending on how you look at it, because the whirlwind is that icon. Do we not believe that an angel rides in a whirlwind and directs this storm, George W. Bush said before he became President of the United States, and that whirlwind became the war that we're in right now. A whirlwind directs this storm. The eye of the whirlwind the angel who rides that whirlwind, Metatron. Metatron rides the whirlwind, and Metatron, of course, is the angel that some people say is Lucifer or the devil. The next one on the list goes from the whirlwind to the fire. The fire, the purification, that's the woe. The fire comes along. The fire is brought about by the angels in some respects. Others, it's the fire brought down from the sky. The fire that cleanses everything once the whirlwind comes through. The final blow is the bottomless pit of despair, where people get to a point in their lives where they don't know what to do. Or it is what is left behind, the scar, the impression, the outcome, the bottomless pit of despair, the Abaddon, the Apollyon, the end, or the beginning, because it all starts all over again. I couldn't help but understand that as I was looking at the news that these things, the three woes, have been going on in the news right now. A wedge tornado moves through Kansas, destroys everything it sees. The people there cannot rebuild, they're frightened. And then fires erupt all over the country. California, Florida, Georgia. Fires are everywhere. I sent an email out to Sadie and to Aaron, Sarah, Jim, a few other people that I send emails out to whenever I get the urge to let them know what they need to be paying attention to, because I want them to give me their thoughts, because I want to express it to you here on the stage. Sent out an email, I said, first we had the whirlwind, then we had the fires, what's next? The bottomless pit of despair. Something's about to happen, maybe an earthquake or a volcano erupting, or maybe even something worse than that, a famine, something. Etna exploded just the other day, Mount Etna. It went off, I was on the news, it's sparking up, it's ready to fly. Yellowstone's caldera now is rumbling, the one they're all worried that if it explodes, it's going to take out a lot of real estate. We have a lot that can happen to us right here in Oregon, because we live in the ring of fire. St. Helens could go up again, I doubt it will, but it could. I hope it doesn't. But with the magnetic things that are going on, all the strangeness, all the weirdness that you hear about in the news, the three woes are becoming apparent as we look at the news. Another whirlwind, apparently this, what was it, Andrea, it's the same, it's from the same root meaning of man. Isn't that interesting? A storm that is of man. How many people talk about this weather control thing going on? They named it Andrea, which is from Andrew, which means of the man. A storm made of the man. And it really wasn't that big of a tropical storm, and it came 3 weeks early. 3 weeks before hurricane season. We're almost there, people. Another Katrina's in it on the way, and everybody's waiting for it. One that'll go right up the Mississippi. One that will take out boats getting food to the people, oil rigs getting taken out again. I mean, this is something that they're not planning on or they're not looking into. When I tell you to prepare for what's to come, I'm not kidding. I'm worried myself because I want to be able to have those things too. And it's hard to get those things when you're constantly working, you don't have time to get to a store and buy up some stuff. But once again, food, drugs, things that will help you understand what's going on. I don't think you're going to be totally mobilized, but let me tell you what. If the grid is down and you can't get your money, you're not going to buy food. And if you don't have food, you're going to die. Or you're going to be hoping that somebody is generous and they feed you because they have stuff in their house. But the grids can go down. We were just watching a film before this whole thing started about the grids going down in California. And that was being done on purpose so Enron could make money off of you. Now, they do it on purpose. What makes you think it's not going to happen in reality? What makes you think that all of the air conditioning is going to be taking out the grids? It's going to knock them down. Not to mention all the computers you're using. Not to mention all the other things you're using, like your Xbox and your TVs and everything else. That really, really sucks the grid away. Most of our grids are only built for like the 1950s and 60s power draws. Not for what we're drawing now. An electronic tsunami could happen at any moment, where the power can immediately double up on us, come back, and destroy everything. Take out our computers, wipe out the internet, wipe out the grid, wipe out your money. You can't get shit. So we'll cripple everybody. Just think of this. How many people are feeling the pinch right now in the pocketbook with gas by a plug? How high does the gas have to get before you say, fuck it, I'm not driving anymore? $10? How much? $4 a gallon? You won't drive after 4? Okay, I hear 4 over here. How many people say 5? $5?
My boss pays for it.
Your boss pays for it. Well, how high does it have to go before you say I'm not driving anymore?
$2.85.
$2.85. You gave up your car a long time ago.
I got this one. You bought the gas when you bought the car. So, you bought a used car. You go up to 82nd Street, you buy a $1,000 used car. You bought the gas and you bought your car. Now, you bought a brand new car and you got payments of a couple $100 a month. Well, you're pretty stupid because then you obviously didn't figure in what gas prices are running at.
I have a friend of mine who just traded in his truck. He says that people are trading in their gas guzzling trucks on nobody's business now.
They are.
For smaller cars.
They are.
Are they?
They are. They have people coming and saying, well, this Infinity doesn't have 4 cylinders.
Yeah, that's what he got. He got himself an Infinity because it's less on gas. Go ahead.
Okay, now I was stationed over in Germany many years ago. Okay, 1975 to 78. At that point in time, they were paying 4 marks for a liter of gasoline. Okay, now this was 30 some odd years ago. That's $8 in 1975 for a gallon of gas. They're willing to pay it. Of course, they were driving fuel-efficient cars too.
Yeah, but their cost of living was probably going up to match it. Our cost of living isn't going up.
Yeah, therein lies the whole difference.
I mean, unless they give us paycheck increases, there are a lot of people ain't going to be driving by the summer. None of you going to Disneyland, not going to the beach, not going to the coast. You're going to be having barbecues in your backyard. Hopefully you can get that chuck to go down on your barbecue because the trucks aren't going to be able to deliver it because they ain't going to have any gas either. Hope you have a freezer. Then you can have your barbecues. Don't think for 1 minute this is going to have repercussions because it is going to have repercussions. No doubt in my mind. No doubt. It's obvious. Always remember, 72% disapproval rating. Gas right now, $3.35, almost $3.50 a gallon. Something's going to go down. And if it doesn't go down, we're stupid. Because it's got to happen. Something's got to happen. Is somebody going to say something? Impeachment. That's not going to do it.
I want to say something funny. You brought barbecue season up, and I want to say something funny here as a joke. With barbecue season happening and everybody's got their grills out and their hot dogs and hamburgers or whatever, I'm wondering as the bugs start to come, mosquitoes, crane flies, and then bees actually start to come out, people start pulling out their cell phones to shoo the bees away when they're at the cookout. What do you think?
Yeah, that works. Yeah, the wasps start attacking your chicken. You just turn on your cell phone. They're gone.
And watch out for the ducks.
And the Wi-Fi smog and everything else.
Watch out for those ducks.
Speaking of ducks, how many people heard about the birds in Florida? Yeah, one person. Falling out of the sky. Falling out of the sky, they're saying it's the air because of the fires. It's killing off the birds and they can't breathe. But then again, there have been birds falling out of the sky prior to that too. Makes you wonder about what those fires are being caused by, right? We all know the magnetic currents change the birds' flight paths. We all know that those types of things cause seals to jump and die, and whales, all this stuff. I thought it was really interesting the other day. I was reading the paper. It said that Avalon was burning. Little area near Catalina, Avalon. Avalon has an Arthurian connotation, doesn't it? Kind of funny, isn't it? Yeah, they want you to think that. Go ahead.
Let us not forget that the elite have said many times over the past 20, 30 years that their goal is to cull 75, 80, 90% of the human population on this planet.
And it was
It's
Prince
in
Philip.
papers.
Prince Philip said that if he could come back.
Kissinger said the same thing.
Prince Philip said that if he could come back as another, if he could reincarnate, he'd want to be a virus and wipe out half the population.
But I'm convinced they're actively pursuing that goal.
Well, it wasn't him, like.
Kissinger in the 70s.
Was Kissinger that said it? Well, Kissinger's an asshole.
You know, that was the whole, the deliberate infection of Africa with AIDS.
I think that's a very key thing that Bob was saying. That people seem to think that they would never do such a thing. But it's part of the plan, and they will, and they have.
Oh, I feel something coming.
Well, it's actually not much. This business of creating a disease, I don't know how many of you know the old South Africa, really seriously considered secret conditions and whatever, creating a disease that would render everyone who is non-white infertile. And they just thought, no, it's true.
True.
And they decided against it because they didn't have the technical capability to do so.
Because there's no way to separate black.
Takes us back to the eugenics argument, doesn't
It
it?
goes back to eugenics. It turns
Goes back
out
to the idea when I was talking about the eugenics thing, that hey, that was science that was politicized and everybody was all for it because they felt that certain groups of people, blacks, retards, gays, you name it, are ruining the gene pool. So we have gypsies that'll wipe them out. Hitler goes, that's a great idea, I'll do it anyway. You guys want to stop it, but I want to keep going. Yeah, illegal immigrants. Who else are you going to blame?
How the hell are you going to ruin the genes of Republicans?
What's that? Republicans, right? Yeah. See, and that's another thing too. Think about what you say about Republicans. Think about what you say about Democrats. Think about what you say about certain people. Now you want them wiped off? That's how it starts. All starts there. I interviewed a guy once. He was a killer that was on death row. And I interviewed him because I wanted to find out just how a killer thought. And he said, you know, when people want me dead, that's where it begins. If you have the idea of murder in your heart, that's where it starts. Starts right there. Who do you want to kill, and what price would it take you to wipe that person out? How much would it take you to look the other way when someone's in trouble or in pain? Just when do you give a real damn about those people who are dying over in Iraq right now or Afghanistan? It's not really affecting you, is it? You get up every day, you put on your pants, you go to work, you don't care. You can't even gather up enough energy in your brain just to think about those people that are turning into a pink mist as they're walking down the street just because some guy decreed it so. It's that blue kite. Feels good, doesn't it? Have that blood cement under your fingertips. If you support that son of a bitch that keeps wanting them dead. That's pretty scary when you think about it, because they don't think about whether or not you support that guy. They just think about who they're going to wipe out next, because they want some retaliation for the blood you spilled on their soil. The retaliation is being planned right now. The witches are going to be burned soon. Who's going to be the one that's going to light the fuse to make that fire go? Who's going to be there for that cremation of care when it's the other person that's having it done to them? Yeah. You start thinking about that. You start thinking about where your hate boils and where your atmosphere is going to be at its top, where it's not where you're finally just going to crack and say, hey, you're going to be in the same position as that little guy from Korea who was at the Virginia Tech University shooting people. I know many of you won't do that, but still, there are a lot of people out there that are just there. They're right at the doorstep. You don't think anything's going to go down? Give it a couple pennies in the pump. Give it to a person who can't eat. Give it to a person who needs to sleep somewhere and get mugged. Give it to that person that is going to find one thing to set them off, and then they're going to go to town. The heat is going to be turned up. The summer's coming, and I can guarantee you that we're going to be seeing some changes, and those changes are going to be brought about to give us the opportunity to either accept or reject the culture known as the military-industrial complex. I'm Clyde Lewis. Good night from Ground Zero.
Thank you for coming. See you next week.